Hey folks, welcome to S News, where staying informed means staying ahead. If you want to keep up with the latest, make sure to follow us, subscribe, hit that like button, and don't forget to leave a comment down below. Your support really helps us bring you more of the news that matters. Thanks for tuning in, and stick with us for all the updates you need. President Trump announced that he'll be imposing a 25% tariff and an additional import tax on goods coming from India. This move could potentially threaten billions of dollars worth of Indian exports. He made the announcement on social media today, listing several complaints against India. Trump said there would also be additional penalties on India for buying Russian military equipment and energy. He mentioned that although Prime Minister Modi is a friend, India doesn't trade much with the United States. He also hinted that more penalties might be added on top of the 25% tariff. Why? Because of India's trade with Russia and its relations with countries hostile to the United States. According to Trump, India is even part of a group of anti-US countries, if you can believe that. He called it an attack on the US dollar. Trump claimed that India backed away from Russia only because of his recent warning. He said it all started with a tweet he posted yesterday.
While India is technically a US ally, Trump pointed out that trade relations have been limited due to India's very high tariffs, among the highest in the world, and its non-tariff barriers that make trade difficult. He criticized India for buying most of its military hardware from Russia and being one of the top energy customers of Russia, along with China, even while the world urges Russia to stop its war in Ukraine.
As a result, starting August 1st, India will face a 25% tariff plus a fine. Trump emphasized several concerns, especially about India's financial support for Russia, saying it helps fuel the Russian war machine while innocent civilians are being killed in Ukraine. However, he clarified that the 25% tariff isn't directly related to the Russia issue. It's more about America's trade deficit with India. Back on April 9th, Trump imposed a 26% tariff on Indian goods. That tariff was later lowered to 10% during a 90-day negotiation period for a trade deal, but Trump says talks didn't go well, which is why the new 25% tariff was announced. It's nearly identical to the one originally imposed on April 9th.
Many people missed the follow-up tweet where Trump explained that the US has a massive trade deficit with India. Shortly after the announcement, Trump held a press conference to explain the reasoning behind the tariff. He added that India is part of a group of anti-US countries, again, something hard to believe. And this whole issue is partly about trade and partly about defending the dollar.
The United States has been running a big trade deficit with India for years. Trump said, although Modi is his friend, India sells a lot to the US but doesn't buy much in return because its tariffs are too high. Now, India says it's willing to lower those tariffs, but Trump said we'll have to wait and see how things unfold. Talks are ongoing, and we'll know more by the weekend. August 1st is shaping up to be a key date for the United States, with Trump predicting a major inflow of money into the country. Thanks for listening, and don't forget to follow S News and catch our future videos for all the latest updates. Meanwhile, things took a sharp turn this morning.
In a major development, Indian refineries announced they will stop buying oil from Russia or Putin.
Trump had been warning of penalties for buying Russian oil. He previously gave a 10-day deadline to stop those purchases or face 100% tariffs.
India's foreign policy has traditionally followed a non-alignment strategy, not pro-West, but not anti-West either. Yet India has joined Western-leaning alliances like the Quad, while also being a part of anti-US blocs like BRICS. One key point is that India doesn't fully trust China and doesn't want China to dominate any new BRICS currency. That's why India has been one of the main voices against ditching the US dollar within BRICS.
Aside from all that, another big reason for the tariffs is that US products face very high tariffs in India, especially agricultural goods like almonds, walnuts, and apples, as well as pharmaceuticals and automobiles. India has a thriving local car industry, and this might be one reason trade talks are stalling. India doesn't want to drop those tariffs, while the US is pushing hard for access to its market. We'll have to wait and see whether those tariffs will be reduced.
But there's still the matter of the 10-day deadline Trump gave Russia. Any country that buys Russian oil after that might be hit with a 100% tariff just for supporting the war.
One of the strongest reactions to Trump's deadline came from Dmitry Medvedev, who is seen as Putin's puppet. He lashed out right after the announcement, and Trump didn't take it lightly. Trump seems to be playing hardball with Russia. He's issuing ultimatums that aren't just about the Russia-Ukraine war. They're signals that he's willing to escalate things on a broader scale, even if it risks confrontation with other major powers.
It's a bit funny, but I'm pretty sure Trump was more insulted by being compared to Joe Biden than by the threat of war. That's how he reacted this morning. He said, "I don't care what India does with Russia. If they want to drag down their debt-ridden economies together, that's their problem."
Trump pointed out that the U.S. does very little business with India, mainly because India's tariffs are extremely high, among the highest in the world. Similarly, there's almost no trade between the U.S. and Russia. He suggested keeping it that way and warned Dmitry Medvedev, Russia's former president who still acts like he's in charge, to watch his words. Trump said Medvedev is entering dangerous territory.
As you can tell from his tweet, Trump didn't take Medvedev's threat lightly, but it seems Medvedev missed the point and responded in a foolish way. We'll get into that later, but first let's look at how India responded.
Right after Trump's announcement, India issued a surprise warning to Russia. Indian refineries stopped buying Russian oil following Trump's threat to slap a 100% tariff on countries that cooperate with Russia. According to 4 industry sources quoted by Reuters, the suspension started this week. India's state-owned oil company, which operates 10 of the country's 20 refineries and handles about 60 million tons annually, stopped buying Russian crude. So did Hindustan Petroleum, Bharat Petroleum, and Mangalore Refinery. These refineries are now searching for alternatives from OPEC countries in the Middle East and West Africa.
Private refineries like Reliance and Nayara, which were the biggest buyers of Russian oil in India, have also been affected by the EU's 18th sanctions package that targeted Nayara.
This was clearly a big decision, but how much does it actually hurt Russia?
While we don't have exact numbers, public estimates suggest India bought about $50 billion worth of oil from Russia last year. That accounted for around 35% of India's daily oil imports. For Russia, it's a major blow. India was their second biggest customer after China, and now India suddenly pulled out.
To make matters worse for Russia, oil prices have dropped significantly since the war began in 2022. The Russian government had based its budget on oil staying at $70 per barrel, but now it's around the mid-50s, maybe 60 at most. That's already below what the government was counting on. Now with India out, Russia has lost its second biggest client. Sure, Russia will probably find new buyers, but they'll have to offer even steeper discounts.
Due to US and EU sanctions on Russian oil and tankers, Russia was already selling oil to India, China, some EU countries, Turkey and Brazil at below-market prices, just to keep the cash flowing for its war. Last year, Russia made about $120 billion from oil and energy sales and spent around $110 billion on its military. That's almost 1-to-1. Whatever they earn from energy, they pour into war. That's why it's so crucial to target countries that are funding that war effort, including India, China, and some EU countries like Turkey and Brazil. And this is all happening before Trump's 10-day deadline even hits, sometime around August 7th to 10th. As that date approaches, expect more countries to pull out of Russian oil deals. This will definitely hurt Russia's economy. Now let's talk about Medvedev's response to Trump's warning, because it's honestly kind of ridiculous.
When Medvedev posted on his social network, I think it was Telegram, he assumed India and Russia would stand together against the US, but just 3 hours after his post, India announced it was cutting off Russian oil. That had to sting. He probably didn't expect India to break away so fast.
India clearly prefers access to the US market over clinging to its relationship with Russia. Now, let's go back to Trump's move. He just announced a 25% tariff on India and warned that more could follow if they keep buying oil from Russia. This will likely affect India's relationship with both countries. India wants a good relationship with the US, but it also needs energy. They were buying Russian oil not because it's the best, but because it's cheap. Hopefully things won't escalate into a full-blown trade war.
The US isn't out to punish India, it's trying to shut down Russia's oil market and cut off its war funding. That's the real goal here.
But there's more. Right now, Russian oil tankers are transferring oil off the coast of Greece, ship to ship, to avoid detection. And Greece, a NATO member, is allowing it. Russia is also using its shadow fleet of oil tankers, many of which are Greek-owned. So Russian energy exports continue to fund its war, and that needs to stop.
Now here's something important to keep in mind. Trump doesn't forget. Someone in the White House realized that Putin was turning Trump into a puppet, but Trump has had enough. Putin keeps bombing cities and won't come to the negotiating table. And when Trump loses patience, we all know how fast things can change. Russia should be worried that the US might open the floodgates, Patriot systems, airstrikes, F-16s, all kinds of weapons, which could help Ukraine launch full-scale offensive operations. That kind of pressure could collapse Russian forces on the front lines. It won't happen overnight, but it's possible. Some even joke that Melania helped push Trump to act against Russia. Who knows?
Let's look at the numbers again. Last year, Russia earned from oil what it spent on war. As Senator McCain once said, Russia is a gas station with nukes. Russia is now up against the whole world. Its GDP is about the same as Italy's, not even close to NATO's. Its threats to escalate the conflict shouldn't be underestimated, but they're clearly stretched thin in Ukraine. The original plan was for a 72-hour operation. Now it's dragged on for years with 1 million casualties.
Here's another surprise. There are reportedly 75,000 Russian soldiers who've deserted or are part of rogue units. The Russian military is falling apart.
The last major backer of Russia is China. But even China might face 100% or even 500% tariffs if it keeps helping Russia. Will China change its behavior? Not really. They'll pretend to, but they're still supplying Russia with drones and dual-use technologies. China doesn't actually want Russia to win. China has its own vision for Eurasia and sees itself, not Russia, as the next global superpower. So for now, China supports Russia just enough to keep the West distracted and focused on Europe, giving China space to prepare for its own goals, like taking Taiwan. And to our Chinese audience, good luck with that. Just remember, when it comes to global power projection, the US dominates at sea, and that's where it really counts.
Finally, thanks for sticking with us and listening to the whole story. If you want to stay up to date with the latest news and analysis, make sure to follow S News and watch our future videos. Don't forget to subscribe, like and comment. We really